Transfers, James Jones. Transfers. Another part of the West Ham supporting experience that I'm certainly not alone in absolutely hating. I'm not a fan of transfer windows anyway. Every time it swings around again, it confuses and baffles me, the amount of football fans, not just West Ham fans, but football fans as a whole, who absolutely hoover up transfer stories and transfer rumours and transfer news, blah, blah, blah. More so, it seems often, than the actual games of football that these signings end up playing or not playing or whatever for the clubs that they're rumoured to be moving to, blah, blah, blah. My stance has always been, and I'm aware I'm sounding a bit bar humbug on this show today, but I don't like pre-season and I don't like transfers. Give me the Premier League and the Europa League and winning games of football that matter any day of the week. Yeah. That's what I actually like, and that's why I like supporting West Ham. But yeah, transfer-wise, it just confuses me, quite honestly, that people get so pent up with who their teams might sign. My stance, as you know, has always been, when the player has signed for West Ham, and I can see the picture of him holding up the shirt, and he's telling he's looking down the camera of someone on the West Ham social media team and going, "Oh, come on, Irons," or whatever it is, or saying that he's always loved bubbles and it's been a lifelong dream to blow bubbles at London Upton Park Stadium or whatever it is. Then I'll do a bit of reading up and I'll get a bit interested. But especially supporting West Ham, I've got absolutely zero appetite and interest or energy to listen to all these sort of half-baked rumours all the time. It's just stressful, mate. Like I say, I mentioned that group chat and I've muted it. So I go in at the end of the day, more so just to clear the notifications than anything rather than actually read the messages. And these are like normal, salient, normal blokes, mates of mine, friends of ours who grew up in the same environment as, absolutely losing the plot because they've read a half-baked transfer rumour that West Ham aren't willing to pay, and then it's like a big meltdown about how much they hate David Sullivan and blah, blah, blah. And I know there's sort of legs in some of those feelings, but like, they're just from random little fifth spotty 16-year-old kids on Twitter who will tweet something about West Ham refusing to pay the wages for Lingard or whatever. Like, zero substance to it or whatever. There's people having an absolute breakdown about it. So that is my stance. I know you're a bit more into it than me. West Ham's transfer window so far. Arrivals: Naya Fagued, Flynn Downs, Alphonse Areola on a permanent deal. Nathan Trotz also returns from loan and signs a new deal as well, a goalkeeper. Departures: Andrei Yarmolenko went, obviously, as is Ryan Fredericks. Mark Noble retired. David Martin released. And Alex Kral, your curly-haired mate, back to Spartak Moscow when his loan finished. One of the weirdest loans the world's ever seen. So, thoughts, Jonesy, on transfers in general, West Ham's window so far, and then we'll move on in a minute against my better judgment about who we might sign before the end of the window.
Well, first off, I'll say I do kind of agree. I've always kind of agreed with you in terms of the transfer window is one of the most painful periods of any West Ham fan's season, any normal West Ham fan season, because 99% of transfer rumours are complete and utter made up rubbish anyway. Right, but people need to understand that. That you'll see fans go, "Oh, we've been linked with everyone, but we're not signing anyone." It's like, you do realise that the club's probably not interested in most of those players that we've been linked with in the media. Yeah. Like, those names are not on the shortlist.
And you know what, mate? One thing I will say,
you can't blame the club for not signing a player that the media said that they're interested in when they're not actually interested in them.
And you got to remember that even if the story does come from somewhere, there are lots of legitimate, more mainstream journalists or whatever who report this news, and a lot of the time, sort of being a little bit closer, a lot of the time it's agents will feed stories to journalists and say, so-and-so have been in touch, so-and-so looking at my client here, and the journalist will publish a story, and it could just be a ploy from the agent. Obviously, the better journalists get more of an idea on, what sources are legit and what stories are legit and the ones they run, blah blah blah. That's why you've got there are journos that fans follow more so for reliable transfer news, because they're better connected and they're a better judge of their sources. But so a lot of it's, even if it's not made up, it might have come from somewhere, but it might have just come from agents or clubs trying to put a line out, or we've obviously had it before, haven't we, with David Sullivan and stuff, doing interviews of himself or leaking things to Jim White at Talk Sport. Oh yeah, we've had an X million £1 rejected for this player, which ends up making us look silly. But carry on, James. Sorry.
No, I think it's more pronounced this summer, particularly on social media, because of just the sheer desperation of West Ham and David Moyes adding players to the squad. We're not going to talk about in too much depth, but we all know how much squad depth cost us last season. Top six and probably the final, if not the Europa League trophy. We've spoken about that a lot in the past, but so
the end of season review, we looked into it, didn't we? We didn't win a game after that. Barely won a game or whatever after that.
After Leon, yeah, something like that. So it was clear that was an issue. We played 57 games last season. We could play the same amount of games this coming season. Hopefully, some players will play more if they go to the World Cup. You're looking at potential 65 fixtures for some of the players in the squad. So we need depth. So we need to buy players. It's desperately need a striker. So you can understand some fans getting a little bit worried about, we're less than 2 weeks before City at home. We've got a striker yet. Probably need a left back. So there's things to be done. Everyone knows 2 weeks. But you go on social media and there's fans literally, like, if you were in the same room as them, you'd be worried about their mental health, and like you'd be like, "You okay? You need to calm down." People like slagging the club off. Like, it was like middle of June, and you had fans accusing the club of lacking ambition.
Do you remember that we were chatting? I think it was the end of last season. Tweets going out before the transfer window had opened.
Yeah.
Like slagging the club off for not having signed anyone.
But this is the problem: is that when the whole Lingard thing blew up, and I think it was last Wednesday, he was expected that he'd be a West Ham player by Friday. I'd spoken to a couple of guys who were like, "It's done. He's picked West Ham." Forest come out of nowhere and take him because he wants an extra 50 grand a week or whatever it was. Don't blame him for that, by the way. So he's gone there, and you've suddenly got a load of fans going, "Oh, this is ridiculous. We desperately need players. Why have we taken so long to try and sign him when we could have started? It's just such a silly thing for West Ham to do." Obviously, a lot of people are on a pop at Lingard at the same time. But then this morning, I've gone onto it and I've seen fans go, apparently we're about to sign Gianluca Scamacca from Sassuolo. Apparently he's flying into London today.
Yeah, sure is.
Zielinski, potentially still interested in Broja, Onana. There's so many players that West Ham are on the verge of signing at some point before next Sunday. And but then on the back of all these like rumours that deals are close, you've literally got fans going, "This is ambition. This is the ambition that we were looking for." It's like less than a week ago, you were slagging the club off. And now imagine if we spent 110 million on these 3 players. It's like, we're not spending 110 million pound on 3 players for a start. Ain't gonna happen. Not happening.
No.
But then just chill out, relax. What will be when the end of the transfer window comes around on the 1st of September. Was it 11 p.m. or whatever it is? If we aren't ready to play 50 fixtures comfortably on the 1st of September at 11 p.m. or 5 p.m. whenever the deadline is, then you can start pointing your finger at people and going, I've seen people praising
your Twitter finger.
Yeah, Rob Newman is like, he can't do no wrong in some fans' eyes this morning.
Yeah.
So hang on, 6 months ago you became.
So for those who don't know, Rob Newman, Jones, he's the
head of recruitment now.
Yeah.
And we were all asking questions about what he was actually doing at the club back in January, and some people were even pointing fingers at him at the beginning of the summer. I've seen someone on Twitter going, finally we're seeing the merits of Rob Newman's ability in the transfer window. What are you talking about? I don't understand. So I don't know. It's heightened by the fact we've never been more desperate to pack our squad with players. But at the same time,
but that's what I find funny.
There's unnecessary hysteria. One deal doesn't happen, and literally people lose their minds.
But at the moment, Jonesy, I'm going to put this to you. At the moment, we are going to have less first team squad members than last year.
Yeah.
All right, granted, you can promote youngsters or whatever, and hopefully maybe they're ready. One of the ones that looked like he might be ready, AJ Elise, just been sold. So, I think, to be honest, it's undeniable, like you said, that the squad depth meant last season couldn't have been even more historic and amazing than it was. I appreciate the need to balance the books, and I honestly think for the first time, I honestly get the impression, as far as last season goes, I don't know so much this summer. I'm not so sure. But I genuinely get the impression that I think it was actually, I lean more to the side of it being Moisey who was fussy. I know people love to slag the board out, but there was a couple of things, and it's weird, it's sort of weird behaviour from the West Ham board or whatever, but there's a couple of pieces that were written in mainstream newspapers, like columns or editorials or whatever, saying, it's poor that West Ham haven't made money available to David Moyes, blah blah blah, when he's done such a good job. And there were apologies written in prominent newspapers and national sports pages, websites, blah blah blah, after legal letters or whatever. And you don't do that, although it seems ridiculous that legal letters come from West Ham saying actually the board did make money available. West Ham fans look at that and it seems petty, a bit like with the Sunday Supplement apology, which was a shambles. They look at that and it seems petty, but you don't do that unless it's true. Do you know what I mean? You don't go down the legal route unless you're totally sound. And I do genuinely get the impression that Moisey was fussy before. And look, he's done so much good things for the club that it's hard to run him down. But if once again, at the beginning of a European campaign, we are short on bodies again, then you've got to point the finger at him again, haven't you?
I think, yeah. If I'm honest, I don't think we will be short on bodies. I think, yeah, going into that first game,
blind faith.
In that first game, we'll go into that still needing one or two players. But by the end of the window, we've still got 5 weeks for the end of the transfer window. We'll have players for the door, and I'm convinced we'll have a larger squad than we did last season. What people are forgetting is that in years gone by, the final decision on transfers has ultimately been David Sullivan's because he was the majority shareholder. He's no longer the majority shareholder because Kretinsky's come in, bought 27% of the club or whatever, so he's no longer majority shareholder at the club. So the decisions go to the board now. So that's a bonus, really. But a lot of fans are going, "Oh, David Sullivan's been tight again." I don't think that's the case. I think David Moyes and Newman have far bigger say than they probably ever have, particularly David Moyes, on who comes and who goes. Obviously, the finances and that are sorted out by the board. But they've got the final say on who comes and who goes. So ultimately, the finger has to be pointed at them if things go wrong. This time next month. But yeah, I don't know. I just think a lot of people are allowing themselves to get upset over things that aren't actually true, and more importantly, are completely out of their own control.
Right. Can I just, sorry, James, just to correct you, I've just it flagged up. When you say he's not the majority shareholder, at the moment, David Sullivan owns 38.8% of West Ham, David Gold 25.1%, WHU LLC, which is Albert J. Smith, the American guy, 8%, other investors 1.1%, and 1890s Holdings, which is Daniel Kretinsky, is 27%. So David Sullivan still owns the most, but it's not a controlling stake. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Okay.
He's no longer a controlled shareholder. It's probably the controlling shareholder, which is probably the terminology I should have used. But yeah, that's essentially
it. Okay, cool. Yeah.
That's essentially it. He doesn't.
Yeah.
Means he doesn't get the final say.
He's not the 100% guy anymore.
Yeah. He can't sign it off. Always to go to the board, and everyone has their say on it, and everyone has a vote to it. But yeah, I just think we just need to take a step back and go, well, it's out of our control, first and foremost. So chill out. Secondly, it's not our money. So
some of it is.
Some of it is, but I mean, it's not really. Like I'm not. I don't care whether we pay 50 million or 50 quid for a player. Like club record fee. Like, okay, the geezer must be good, but I'm not really that bothered about the fee,
especially in Haller.
Yeah, so that's a lot of money for a player, but I don't really care. We could have paid 25 quid for him, and it wouldn't have bothered me.
Craig Dawson, example.
Selling players is a little bit different because you want the club to get the best deal possible for your best assets, i.e. Declan Rice in the future.
And i.e. laughably, Grady Diagana.
Yeah, exactly. You want...
What a deal.
You want players to... you want the club to profit out of these deals. But in terms of what they spend the money on, it's like, whatever, I don't really care. The other one I've got a gripe on is loans. There was the rumours that we were going to loan Brozier rather than pay 30 million quid for him. And everyone's like, no, what are you doing? It's like, no, that's a better deal. Because if he turns out to be rubbish, we get to keep him. We get to keep him. Loans are the best thing to happen in football.
It's loan with an option to buy.
With an option to buy, you want to try and get that clause in if you can. But if you can't...
They're the one, aren't they?
But loans are the best thing since sliced bread in football for football clubs because it's like, oh, great, I'll try before I buy. But you fans go, no, like I think there was a couple of years ago where fans were calling West Ham Loan FC. We were trying to loan everyone. And it was like, well, probably it's actually quite a good deal really, if you can do it.
Probably quite a good idea,
Yeah. So but other than that, we're on the verge of signing some players, mate. So
right, talk to me coming in, Jonesy, because you'll appreciate mine and many West Ham fans' scepticism or cynicism around such bold statements. Obviously, coming from an esteemed podcaster such as yourself, it may come with somewhat more gravitas, but I'm afraid you're still going to need to back that up with some either information or just convince the doubters, of which I am one, that these deals are close. Gianluca Scamacca is the one that's been rumbling on for days now, it seems. I'd just like to note, by the way, with the Lingard thing, I heard a little whisper that because David Moyes at the start of the summer was quite adamant that he was like, no, you know what, we're not that worried. We'd like to have him back, but we're not going to chase him, blah, blah, blah. And then since then, that stance appeared to have changed. The club were willing to sanction a deal for Jesse up to a certain level. Jesse wanted more than that, and there was some sort of internal discussions, shall we say, at the club as to. For sort of Moyes' stance seemed to change the more the summer went on, as far as not necessarily willing to chase him, blah blah blah, and was more and more keen. But on that Lingard thing, before we move on to who else we might sign, I'd just like to say right now that I am absolutely okay with us not having signed Jesse Lingard at the sort of money they're talking about him getting at Nottingham Forest. I don't think he was that asked about. He's clearly not that asked about West Ham, as much as he'd like to pretend that he was. He didn't. He could have. He had a chance to come back to us on 2 occasions after the last season finished. He could have come in the summer. And I sort of understand if he had a conversation with Solskjaer who said he's got half a chance of getting in the team, then fair enough. Because he did play well for us. That was the point of it. But then when he clearly wasn't, he could have come in January, chose not to do that, and just to sit on his United and do nothing at United for the last 6 months of his deal. And then this summer, it's like West Ham, I know for a fact it was a reasonable, like it was a decent package. It certainly wasn't to be sneezed at. And it's not something that if you heard the numbers, you'd go, oh, blimey, that's a bit much for Lingard, or oh, that's a bit cheap. It was neat. It was like a fair enough, like understanding as well that he was a free transfer, so you're not paying the transfer fee. Like it was a decent old hit, and not a million miles away from what he was after. When West Ham were interested in January and before that. And then the numbers, the figures that he's reported, he's just held out, gone to Nottingham Forest. You can't tell me that football project is better. You know what? It's a decent old like bit of money extra every week. And it's okay. But all of this stuff, that he loves West Ham and he wants to come home and all that sort of rubbish. I am personally really pleased that he hasn't come back.
I was of the. My thought was, if we get him, he's a good. It's another body. It's a good player to have in the squad. He knows he's not going to need any bedding in period. Like he's not going to have to settle in. Like he knows the players, he knows the manager, he knows the area, knows the club. So I thought, okay, on a free transfer, it's a good bit of business if we can get him in. But if we don't get him, then we did all right last season without him. So.
We did phenomenally last season without him, yeah.
Is he really gonna? He's not going to take us to the next level. It's not a signing. It's not a free transfer that you go, blimey, have we done that? Have we pulled that? He's going to significantly improve us.
Yeah, so, and there's no guarantee he delivers the same level of performance.
Well, that's it.
Last time round, he's got less to prove now. He's not getting in the England squad.
Concern that if we bring him back, fans are automatically going to expect the Jesse Lingard that we had the second half of the 2021 season. And it was never going to happen. Yeah, he might have the odd really good game. The fact he's gone to Forest says a lot about the type of, a lot about his ambition as a footballer. Particularly as it's a 1-year deal as well. He's gone, I'm going to a relegation candidate. I'm coming for the extra money, but I'm not hanging about if we go down, so I want a 1-year deal or nothing. Right? God, no idea what Forest are thinking for a start, and the amount of money that's costing them.
Their highest earner, I understand. I'm pretty sure. I understand their highest earner last season was £19,000 a week.
This is the problem,
and
mate. Because
if the reports of the figures, it's at least 6 times more he's getting that than their highest earner.
You've got 10 players that arrived before him this summer. Guarantee none of them are anywhere near the money he's on now. If I'm one of those new signings that have arrived for say $19,000 a week, I'm looking at going, hang on, I've just signed for the club.
Sorry, I think that was at the end of last season, like news. So there's wages at the end of last season. So
I've signed for the club this summer on roughly $19,000 a week, $20,000 a week, which wouldn't be out of the question really, given they've only just come up. Yeah, they might have a little bit of money.
What, you signed in for them for that money? I would say that is out of the question, mate.
Yeah, well, I reckon I can still do it. I do have a goal. At a Premier League ground.
$19,000 a week. Yeah, go on.
But yeah, if I'm one of those new players coming in, even if it's more than $19,000 a week, I'm still looking at the club going, hang on, why is he coming and earning 6 times more than me? Straight off the bat. So there's going to be players in that squad that aren't going to be best pleased the fact that Jesse Lingard's arrived on the money that he's on, and he's only got a 1-year deal. Now it's a 1-year deal. I'm less baffled by Nottingham Forest doing the deal. When it first came out, it was a 3-year deal. I was like, what on earth are you doing? Because if you go down, you've got a very expensive problem on your hands, and no one's taking him at the money he's on after 1 year, a 30-year-old on that sort of money. So it's a 1-year deal. They'll wash their hands of him probably in a year's time. But it is what it is. I think we've dodged a bullet, given the fact he's picked them over us.
Definitely.
And he's gone for the money. But it's led to me having a really weird, irrational dislike to Nottingham Forest and their fans now. Some of their fans on social media, oh my word. I literally just tweeted it, but I was like, I can't believe Nottingham Forest are doing this deal. It's just like baffling. A Forest fan go, well, Nottingham Forest have showed more ambition than West Ham have ever done, and we've been out of the Premier League for 23 years. It's like, mate, what are you talking about?
Signed one bloke. We just got
signed one bloke
semi-final.
Yeah, just on a 29-year-old.
Yeah.
So yeah, I now really, really hope Nottingham Forest go down, not because they signed Lingard, but because their fans are really touchy. Really, really touchy. I really want.
Yeah. I must admit, I was of that opinion. Like, same when Leeds were coming back up. I was like, it'd be good to get Leeds back in the league. I thought it'd be brilliant to get Forest back. And last season, I was like, yeah, I hope Leeds go down again.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'd be the same this year.
You had one call up Talk Sport. Carlton Cole was one of the guys, and a Forest fan go, hear me out. I really think Nottingham Forest are going to finish above West Ham next season. The Carlton Cole was laughing at him down the phone. And it's
Yeah.
So, on what basis do you think that that's actually going to happen? I mean, it could happen, but what are you basing that opinion on? Like, genuinely, just because you signed Jesse Lingard?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. So, I hope they get relegated.
Fair enough, mate. Yeah, fair enough. Right. So, come on. Sorry, we ventured into it just now. One thing I will say before I forget, I mentioned him just now. We'll reiterate at the end, of course. But all the best to Sebastian Haller. Found a testicular tumour the other day when he was training for Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, some views about him among West Ham fans and his value for money and all that sort of thing. But as with anything like this, something like that and the humanity of the situation is so much more important than football. It doesn't matter how much money you got, how healthy you are, whatever, these things can happen to all of us. Obviously, Jonesy raising money last year for the DT38 Dylan Tombides Foundation. Just vital for you to check yourselves out, lads, whenever you can. If you're in the shower, whatever it is, Tracy and all those guys at the DT38 Foundation, push that message. Obviously, we send all the very best to Sebastian and hope that he pulls through as quickly as possible, gets back to playing footy, and he's fighting fit and healthy for his family and all that sort of thing. So all the best to Sebastian in your hopeful recovery from that at the moment. Just a reminder, especially thanks for our work that we do at the DT38 Foundation. Jonesy and I do it on the reg as well. Just check yourself, lads, in the shower, whenever it is, and if there's anything that's new or you feel a bit concerned about it, just head down to your GP and get it checked out. Jonesy, transfers. West Ham, you're telling me they're going to sign some players. Make me believe you.
So the nearest one is Gianluca Scamacca from Sassuolo, 6'4", I think. I've seen a couple of videos of him popping around on social media. The guy's absolutely massive. Almost so massive that it almost looks like, that FIFA glitch where players are just bigger than everyone else on the pitch, like oversized. It's like that. It's like blimey. But the bloke can finish. He scored for Sassuolo. He scored, I think.
He's not finished.
Yeah,
he's not finished. He's 29.
16 goals in Serie A last season for Sassuolo, so not to be sniffed at. Good in the air, obviously, because he's about 9'8". And looks a player, only 22, 23.
Yeah.
Signing him for 30 million quid, I think 5 million add-ons. He's actually, according to sources, on his way to London today.
Right. So whose sources? Where have you looked there?
A source at work.
Right, okay. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. You do work for a reputable football media organisation.
Exactly, yeah. A source at work, but it's being widely reported on social media as well that he's on his way.
Jack Grosser as well, friend of the podcast,
Yeah.
Formerly the Evening Standard, now of Sunsport, been on top of that one all summer as well. Assures me that one is as good as over the line. So, go on then, Jonesy.
The other one that is at a more advanced stage than just rumours is Filip Kostic at Stuttgart, Frankfurt.
Eintracht Frankfurt, yeah.
Obviously, we know all about him. Played very well against us over the two legs in the semi-final. Yeah. Apparently, a €12 million fee has been agreed with Frankfurt, but we're trying to convince him to come because he'd be sacrificing Champions League football. to sign for us. So something going on there. I don't know. We've offered.
Is that a good sign? Sorry, go on, mate. What would you say? We've offered what?
No, I'm just moving on to the next one. So do you want to still talk?
No, I was just going to say, is that a good sign that we're having to persuade him? And also another one I've sort of seen a lot of people going, if we had Kostic instead of Cresswell, we'd have won the Europa League. Da da da. I was of the opinion he's far more of an attacking player, like a winger / midfielder, who can sometimes play left wing back. But people more
played on the left wing against us, but he is experienced at left wing back, and I've seen reports that he's coming in to predominantly act as cover for Cresswell, but also be a left-sided midfielder at the same time. Right. So we're going to get a hybrid role out of him.
Can do a bit of both, yeah.
So for 12 million euros, it's a sensible deal, I think. Given that he is 29, I think so. He's
couple of good years out of him.
Yeah, we'll get a few years out of him. But
go on.
The fact is, we've got to convince him because. Quite rightly, he's probably sitting there going, well, yeah, fine, but I've got Champions League football to worry about next year. He's got a year left on his deal, which means next summer he'll have more options. Does he want to
more salary as well? Probably.
Yeah.
If it was me, I think I'd be hanging around in Germany, wouldn't you?
I would. Yeah.
Yeah, more money next summer and Champions League football this year after having played a vital part in them. In getting them Champions League football last year, I think longer term probably a better idea for him to stay put. I am led to believe, Jonesy, I can't be too sort of certain on this at the moment, sort of confident enough to say it on the podcast that if that deal was to be done or a deal for a player of similar ilk, that it could spell the end of Arthur Masuaku's time at the club. I can't sort of details-wise, I'm not too sure as far as deals in place or anything like that yet. I've heard a couple of whispers, but nothing that I could be confident enough to sort of say on the podcast. But to be honest, that's the least surprising thing ever if that were to happen, wasn't it? Because if he comes in and he can provide that cover there, Masuaku's just not up to it anymore, is he?
I think it was just.
I'm surprised he hasn't gone already, frankly.
Yeah, I think it was accepted that this is the summer that he goes. So, if that's the case, then fine.
Yeah. I say a couple of whispers about clubs, but nothing sort of sure enough yet. But it does seem to be that if a transfer of Kostic or similar were to be made, that would start a chain reaction, which would likely affect Arthur Masuaku's West Ham career, which of course would devastate me. But probably time for the King to depart. Anything else?
The other one that's been going on for a while is Amadou Onana at Lille.
Yeah,
we're down midfielder. We're on to our fourth bid, which has risen up to 38 million euros now.
From our first bid of 37.6.
yeah, something like that. Apparently, there's no agreement. Like Lille are still holding out for a little bit more, apparently. But according to Fabrizio Romano, who not to be sniffed at when it comes to information, although some people will call him a tapping merchant, but that's a debate for another day. He normally does have correct information one way or another.
Whether it's his or not is
up for debate. Yeah, but he's saying that currently West Ham's priority is getting Scamacca over the line, but then full focus goes to bring in Onana to London Stadium.
So where sort of when you say midfielder, that's quite a broad term these days. Holding, attacking, wide, central, box to box.
He's holding. Right. Obviously, we've got Flynn Downs in this summer, who looks like a good prospect. Don't really know too much about him.
An Ipswich fan who I work with said decent. We said he'll make. A minimum, he'll be like a bit of a journeyman, not journeyman, sorry, but like a proper, average, reliable Premier League midfielder for a few years. So
the Football League writers at work on Football League World, they all went, can't believe you're signing him. He's a good player. So they were like, you're gonna have and the fact he's a West Ham fan as well helps.
Yeah.
So obviously with Flynn Downs coming in, obviously Souček and Rice in the squad. That gives four good options in central midfield. I think we should expect Rice to see him get a little bit more forward this year if we're signing 2 older midfielders. We should see him get forward a little bit more. So that's good. Whether that happens or not, I don't think that's a long way off. But the 2 closest appear to be Scamacca, which should be done within the next 48 hours. Yeah. And then Kostic, which I'll be quite happy if we got him in. Experienced player. Obviously won the Europa League last year. So,
yeah, for sure. Should have got Basti on to ask him about him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
but other than that, I think there's one. Zielinski is another one we've been linked with, but I don't know how true that is.
So do you think that's just say we pull those deals off, Jonesy? Is that enough?
I think so. I'd like us to get probably another striker. I think we need 3 strikers in the round. I know Bowen can play there. I'd like us. I mean, if we can get Brozier in as well.
Oh, that would be the one. I think that would be a phenomenal signing.
Personally, I'd rather us go all in for Brozier and leave Scamacca. I think
What? Don't be ridiculous.
I'd rather Brozier. Yeah, Premier League experience.
Stop it. We're going to sign another striker and we'll actually have an out-and-out striker rather than a converted right-back.
What I mean is if we're only going to sign one, then for me, I would have preferred Brozier.
Well, sign both. For
ideally, I'd like to sign both. Like, apparently, Chelsea are only willing to let him go on loan.
Loan him then. Get him on loan. Yeah. That's okay for us.
Yeah. Stick a clause in there as you get first dibs on him next summer.
Yeah.
He's not going to play for Chelsea. Thomas Tuchel's saying, "Oh yeah, I really like him. Like, I rate him." But you're not going to play him, though, are you? But genuinely, you're not going to play him. He's not going to play for Chelsea.
Yeah.
So if we can get Scamacca in, get Brozier in, Onana, and then Kostic, those 4 players, I will be happy. I think that'd be because I think Aguero, I know he's injured, probably going to miss the City game. I think he's a very, very good centre back. Spoken to a lot of people, and they're like, "What on earth are you doing at West Ham? You should be at a bigger club." And I'm like, "Don't pick it on West Ham," but okay, I'll take your point.
Who's that about? Aguero.
Aguero, yeah. Apparently, he's a very, very good player. But he's injured, so
yeah. Who knows? We'll ever see him.
So someone said to me that I went, "Oh yeah, he's got a really, really good injury record. Rarely gets injured, but 2 days later,
he's really good at getting injured."
So, yeah, great, thank you, brilliant, thanks for that.
Quality stuff, mate. Quality stuff. Well, look, Jonesy, I think good podcast this season. We're going to try and change a few things up, but we do appreciate you all bearing with us last year. The schedule was a little bit all over the place, primarily down to me getting a new job. But me and Jones, you've worked something out. So we've carved out a little time, Monday lunchtimes, that works both for us each and every week. So we should be back on a little bit more regular with the podcast, hopefully a little bit tighter on time as well. We really appreciate you all sticking with us last season. We got some absolutely wonderful comments. We're both, I was going to say we're both rested and recharged. But I don't know if we're either rested or recharged. Both of us still look absolutely exhausted from our lives. But yeah, we're ready to go for another season. Jonesy, as much as new and improved stuff on the podcast, we hope it's gonna be better for the guys next season. I think we need to have a little bit of what's it called? A new season resolution that we watch a few more games together. Because the ones we did last season, I thoroughly enjoyed. Tottenham away in the League Cup in the home end. You covering up the worst celebration cover-up I've ever seen when Jared Bowen scored. And Kidderminster Harriers away watching it together in the Sports Bar in London Bridge, which was the most harrowing experience and the most disappointed I've ever been for West Ham to win a game of football.
Yeah.
But yeah, this season, mate, I think we need to do that a little bit more.
We need more nights like Leon, don't we?
Exactly, mate. Exactly. Yeah. How could I forget that one? Leon away. Best night ever. But yeah, look, great to see you again, mate. Obviously, that one was a little bit more casual, but we'll have the usual stuff back next week. Opposition views, things like that. No game to look back on, of course, other than the Lons friendly on Saturday, by which time I hope I'll have learned how to say the name of the team properly. But yeah, exciting stuff coming up for We Are West Ham. We appreciate you all sticking with us. Jonesy, as far as YouTube goes, sort of what can people expect if they're not already subscribers? I think we're going to make a few changes on that front too.
Yeah, I think on YouTube, if you are subscribed, and if you're not, make sure you go over there and do subscribe. It's predominantly going to be where we house our opposition view interviews each week. And then there'll be the odd, during transfer windows, we'll put up sort of, our discussions about transfer windows and any big talking points. Obviously, last year we had the Depay takeover.
High Capital, yeah. We are West Ham. First interview, exclusive interview with Tony Kostic.
And then any exclusive interviews like with Tony Kostic, if we can get him back on this season, and anyone else that we feel is worthy of our YouTube audience. So yeah, it's mostly going to be opposition view, because that is by far the most watched segment on YouTube. So we're just going to strip back all the stuff that doesn't work, keep the stuff that does work, and then go from there and then see what else we can do.
Absolutely. Hopefully this year, I think a more streamlined We Are West Ham is what fans can expect. Am I right, Jonesy? Exactly. One thing I haven't done so far on this podcast is the little bit of housekeeping. You can find Twitter at @WeAre_West Ham, Instagram where We Are West Ham Pod, Facebook search We Are West Ham Podcast. Do the same on YouTube and get over there and subscribe to the channel like Jonesy just mentioned. That's We Are West Ham Podcast on YouTube. You can email us if you so wish at wearewesthampod@gmail.com. The links to all the ways you can follow us and contact We Are West Ham are included in the description to this podcast below. We try and reply on most platforms. To be honest, I get a few messages through Instagram as well. Me and Jonesy are on Twitter. I'm at @WilliamPugh_. James is @ByJamesJones, or our personal profiles. Get in touch with us on there or Instagram, wherever you fancy. We do reply to you as often as we can. Don't forget, as many of you did last season, you can buy us a beer and support the podcast at buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. Plenty of you did that last season, especially towards the end. Bought us a few pints just to say thanks for all your efforts. We really, really appreciate all of you guys who did that. So that's buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. And the beers start from as little as £5 at a time if you fancy going over there. That's it for the first podcast of the campaign. Somewhat of a soft launch, Jonesy. A little bit of a chat about pre-season. 3rd degree sunburn on your legs. You turning 34, and much of the incredulity of that barmaid, that mysterious barmaid that doesn't exist at your local pub, and your good pal Will Pugh. It's been a good one. Normal service to resume. Normal, more streamlined service, hopefully, to resume next week. Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope you're glad we're back. We certainly are. We'll see you for the first We Are West Ham podcast of the season, proper, next week.